You slide out of your mother somewhere in the Kantō region. Congratulations, you're a Cubone, and the skull sitting on your head is already too big for you, so it slides forward and covers your eyes completely, leaving you standing in the dark with your arms out, walking into the wall of the den before you can stop yourself. You tilt your head back trying to see, and the skull shifts just enough to give you a thin gap to look through, so you take a few steps forward with your bone dragging along the ground behind you, because your arm isn't strong enough to lift it properly yet. Your mother watches from the corner of the den with her eyes, following every move you make, but staying where she is, letting you figure it out on your own. Then, something moves at the entrance. An Ekans pushes its head through the gap in the rocks with its body sliding in behind it, and your mother crosses the den in 3 steps and drives her bone straight into the side of its head, sending it back through the gap and out of sight. But the hit knocks her sideways into the wall, so she takes a moment to straighten up before moving back to her spot. You're alone in the middle of the den, with the skull back over your eyes again, so you try a different approach this time, reaching up with both hands and pushing the back of the skull down, which tilts the front up just enough that you can see properly for the first time. Your mother is standing a few steps away, looking at you. You look back at her, and the skull on her face matches the one sitting on yours exactly, but you're too young to understand what that means yet. You're a few months old now, and your bone has become the most important thing in your life. Every day, you carry it out to the flat rocks outside the den and practice swinging it against the stone, trying to build up enough strength to actually do some damage. But for now, it bounces off and sends a jolt back up your arm that knocks the skull sideways over your eyes every single time. Then, one afternoon, your mother leaves the den to find food, and you decide to follow the small stream that runs past the entrance down to where it pools between 2 rocks. You lean over the water with your bone resting across your knees, and that's when you see it. Your reflection looking back up at you, and more specifically, the skull on your face looking back up at you. You've worn it your whole life without thinking about it, but now you're looking at it properly for the first time, and you realize that the shape of it, the eye holes, the curve at the back, all of it matches your mother's face exactly. So you look up from the water and watch her moving along the ridge above the den with her bone in her hand, and her skull catching the light. And then you look back down at your reflection. You hold still for a long time, with your hands resting on your knees, and your eyes going back and forth between the water and her. Your mother comes back down and walks past you toward the den entrance, and as she passes, she puts one hand briefly on top of the skull on your head, and then keeps walking. You turn and watch her go inside. You don't fully understand what any of it means yet, but one day you will, and that day is going to be much harder than this one. Skip forward a bit, and you're around a year old now, which means you're big enough to spend time outside the den on your own, and your mother has started letting you do exactly that. Your bone swings properly now, with your arm strong enough to carry it without dragging it along the ground, and you've gotten good enough at keeping the skull pushed back on your head that it only slides forward when you take a hard hit. That's exactly what happens when the Mankey finds you. You're out past the rocks practicing your swing against a dead tree when it drops down in front of you with its hands already up, and before you can do anything, it drives both fists into your chest and sends you back into the dirt. Your bone lands a few feet away, and you scramble toward it, because without it, you have nothing. But the Mankey gets there first and kicks it further away, so you change direction and go for the tree instead, putting something solid behind your back. The Mankey charges again with its arms swinging wide, so you do the only thing you can think of, which is drop low and let it hit the tree instead of you. It pulls its hands back and shakes them, trying to get the sting out, so you grab that second to get to your bone and swing it straight into the side of the Mankey's leg. The hit is good enough to make it stumble sideways, and it looks at you for a moment before deciding you're more trouble than you're worth and moving back up the ridge. That's your first real win. You're covered in dirt, with the skull tilted halfway over one eye, but you're standing. A few hours later, your mother comes back and finds you sitting outside the den with your bone across your knees, and she sits down next to you without saying anything. Soon, though, she won't always be there when you get back. You're about 2 years old now, and today, your mother doesn't come back. She left in the morning the same way she always does, moving up the ridge with her bone in her hand, and you waited by the den entrance the way you always do. After a while, you moved to the flat rocks to practice your swing. Then, you waited some more. By the time the light starts dropping, you walk up the ridge yourself because you need to find her, and that's when you see the Arcanine standing over her in the grass, with a trainer watching from a few steps back. You run toward them with your bone already up because that's the only thing you know how to do. But you're 2 years old, and the Arcanine is massive, so when it turns and steps towards you, your legs stop moving on their own. Your mother's on the ground behind it, and she's not getting up. The trainer pulls the Arcanine back, and the two of them walk away down the hill, and you stand there in the grass with your bone at your side. You walk over to your mother and stand next to her for a long time. Then, because you need to do something, and there's only one thing that makes any sense, you reach down and take her skull and place it over your own, wearing it on top of the one you already have. That's how it works with Cubone. The skull you're born with gets replaced by your mother's, and now hers is yours. You carry her bone back to the den along with your own, and you sit inside with both of them across your lap. The den is the same as it always was, but it's just yours now. And from this point on, everything you do alone. A few weeks pass, and the old den stops feeling like somewhere you need to be, so you leave it and start moving through the rocky areas east of where you grew up, looking for somewhere new to claim as your own. You're carrying both bones with you because you need them, one in each hand, with your arms out to the sides for balance as you move along the ridge. The first cave you find already has a Zubat colony living in it, and when you step inside, they drop from the walls and push you back out through the entrance, so you keep moving. The second is too open on one side to be any use. But the third one, further along the ridge where the rocks stack up into a proper wall, has a narrow entrance and enough space inside to move around, so you drop your mother's bone against the back wall and stand in the middle of it. This is yours now. Keeping it takes work. A Ratata tries to push inside on your second day there, and you swing your bone into the ground in front of it, hard enough to make it jump back and leave. A few days later, 2 more try together, so you plant your feet at the entrance with both bones ready and hold the gap until they give up and go. That's the thing about having a small entrance. Only one thing can come through at a time, so you always have the advantage. After a while, the challenges slow down, and you spend most of your time out on the rocks with one bone in your hand, swinging at targets you set up along the ridge. Your accuracy keeps getting better, and your hits keep getting harder. You're building something out here on your own, and it's working. But the territory is small, and eventually, something bigger than a Rattata is going to come looking. 3 years have passed since you claimed the cave, and the bigger thing you were waiting for finally shows up one morning while you're out on the rocks running your practice swings. It's another Cubone, bigger than you, with a cracked skull and a bone that's thicker and longer than yours. It walks straight up the ridge toward the cave entrance without slowing down, so you step into its path because you have to. Everything you've built is inside that cave, including your mother's bone, and you're not moving aside for anything. It swings first, and the hit lands on your shoulder and knocks you sideways so hard that the skull slides forward over one eye, so you push it back with your free hand and reset your feet. It swings again, trying to drive you away from the entrance, but this time you drop under the swing and push your shoulder into its side, forcing it back 2 steps toward the edge of the ridge. It's heavier than you, so the push doesn't do much, but it gives you enough space to get back to the entrance. That's when you figure out what you need to do. You back into the entrance with both hands on your bone and let it come to you, because the gap is narrow enough that it can only come straight through. So when it ducks its head to get inside and swings wide, the bone hits the rock wall instead of you. You bring your bone down across its back with everything you have, and it drops to one knee. It tries to get back up, but you hit it again in the same spot, and this time it pulls back out through the entrance and stands on the ridge with its bone at its side. After a moment, it turns and walks back down the hill. You stay at the entrance and watch it go. That's the hardest fight you've ever been in, and you won it by using the one thing that was already yours. Some time passes, and something starts happening to your body that you have no way to prepare for. It starts one morning while you're out on the rocks with your bone in your hand, running the same drills you've run every day for years. Your whole body locks up mid-swing, with your arms stopping in place and your legs going rigid under you, and a light starts building under your skin that pushes outward through your arms and across your back. This is what evolution feels like from the inside, or at least what it looks like from the outside. Your body is trying to change. But then, your eyes go to the skull on your face, and your arm drops. The light fades. Your legs go loose again, and you're standing on the rocks exactly the same as before. That's the thing about Cubone that makes it different from almost every other Pokemon. The grief doesn't go away. It sits in your body and holds the change back. So every time the evolution starts to build, something pulls it apart before it can finish. You go back inside the cave and sit with your mother's bone across your knees, and the light doesn't come back. 2 more days pass like this, with the change starting and then stopping every time. So on the 3rd day, you make a decision. You stand up, pick up both bones, and carry them outside. You set your mother's bone down against the rocks where you can see it, and then you turn away from it and start your drills again with your own bone in your hand. The light builds under your skin for the 4th time, and this time you keep swinging. Your arm stays up and your legs stay under you, and the light keeps going. And this time it doesn't stop. You're a Marowak now, and the cave is still yours. But something has been coming to the entrance every day for the past 2 weeks, and then disappearing before you can get to it. It's a Gengar, and it's been doing the same thing each time, which is showing up at the entrance, taking a few steps back when you move toward it, and then going around the side of the rocks and out of sight. You know it's trying to pull you out into the open because that's what Gengar do. And you know the smart move is to stay inside where the entrance works in your favor, the same way it did against the other Cubone. So you do that for 2 weeks, and it keeps coming back. Then, on the 14th day, it doesn't stop at the entrance. It goes straight past the rocks and further up the ridge. So you follow it out because you need to drive it away from the territory for good, and you're big enough now to do that in open ground. That's the mistake. You get 20 steps out from the entrance with your bone up and your feet planted when the Gengar turns around and throws a shadow ball straight into your side before you can bring your bone across to block it. The hit takes your legs out from under you and puts you on the ground with your bone landing a few feet away. You reach for it, but the second shadow ball comes before your hand gets there. And that's it. That's how it ends for you. Not in a big fight. Not against something you could see coming. Just 2 hits in open ground, because you followed something you knew was trying to trick you. Your bone stays in the dirt outside the cave. Your mother's skull stays on your face, and the Gengar walks back inside.